Just over 1 year ago, I created my first ever WoW Classic character, the legendary warrior Fart and Sniff. And since then, we have done so much. We've explored every zone, ran every dungeon, and killed every single raid boss. And Vanilla WoW was the single greatest gaming experience that I've ever had. Like genuinely, I've never felt this passionate about a video game before. But things are changing, because TBC is now here. New zones, new dungeons, new raids, and I cannot wait to see it for the first time ever. Last time we played, it was the launch of TBC Classic, and we managed to get so much stuff done. We managed to hit level 65, plus we had gotten to Honoured level reputation with the Cenarion Expedition, Durnholde, and now the Consortium. But there is still so much stuff left to do. So the goal for today's video is to reach level 70, the maximum level in TBC Classic. Starting things off, it is currently the 3rd day of TBC launch, and we are currently stood in Shattrath City. I wasn't actually doing anything, I was mostly just exploring the city a bit more. I then actually decided to go all the way back to Stormwind, because I had forgotten about something very, very important. My class trainer. Throughout the entire of levels 60 to 65, it never even crossed my mind that we might have new abilities to get. And thank God I remembered, because we had so much important stuff to get. We got a new Shred rank, Ferocious Bite, Dash, Thorns, pretty much every useful ability we have, as well as a really cool new ability called Maim. It's a finishing move that causes a decently large amount of damage, plus it incapacitates them. So I am very much looking forward to seeing how it works out in PvP. But with all that now out of the way, it is time for us to get started on the first rep grind of the day, and the first stop is Auchindoun Crypts. Okay, so like I said in the last video, originally I wasn't going into TBC and planning on spamming dungeons to level, but let me give you my thought process as to why I decided to. Obviously, because rep is very important in TBC so that we can unlock the heroic dungeons. And this time around, TBC is very alt friendly, because we only have to unlock heroics once, and when we do, we are automatically given access to them on all other characters on that account. And looking at things from a broader perspective, we're going to be leveling multiple characters anyway, so I'm really not fearing missing out, because I know that I'm going to be exploring every inch of Outland regardless, so it only made sense for me to get them all out of the way now. And besides, I really like doing dungeons, and doing them now would at least give me a decent idea of what to expect when we eventually get round to doing the heroic versions later. So Auchindoun Crypts. Going into this one, I actually wasn't expecting to enjoy it too much, because given my experience in the Mana Tombs, the overall spacey void theme just isn't really my kind of thing. However, this one was actually quite cool. It was much less on the spaciness and had more of a death theme around it. Plus, the bridge leading up to the first boss felt sick. It was an eerie path surrounded by a red void. The boss himself, though, is called Sethekk the Dead Watcher, and this is probably one of my favourite models in the game so far. He's a floating tentacle eye thing, which is a great mix of creepy and cool. For his mechanics, this one is a terrible one for casters because he reduces casting speed by a huge amount. Plus he also makes people explode. As for the loot, he dropped a pretty nice looking plate helmet. But we were claiming our way through the next part, which were these massive packs of skeletons. And very stupidly, I managed to get myself one-shotted because the mage frost nova'd a bunch of them together, and since I was the only one standing next to them, they all started attacking me. And that kinda caused a chain reaction because we then wiped. My bad. But of course, we rezzed up and managed to continue from where we left off. And this time, I actually used my brain a little because I switched over to using Hurricane. And big surprise, the AoE pack went a lot smoother. Moving on to the final boss now is Exarch Maladar. This guy just has an aura about him. The male Draenei already have a Chad look about them, so size them up 3 times and this is what you get. As As for his mechanics, well, throughout the entire fight he was using moonfire on people, and right before he died, he summoned a second boss to attack us, which I think is a pretty cool mechanic. Though I think it could have been cooler if that second boss also dropped a piece of loot. And of course, the rest of the group asked if I wanted to go again, but I had other plans, because I had just learned about a questline that would not only give us insane XP, but also our first piece of TBC gear. So I took myself over to Telvedor and began running through the zone towards Nagrand. And I still can't believe how beautiful this zone is. This is easily my favourite zone in the game so far. That was until I took my first few steps into Nagrand, because holy crap, I thought Nagrand was nice, but this place takes it to a whole new level. As I've said in many of my other videos, the green and natural zones are my favourite, and it really doesn't get much more green and natural than this. And of course, the quest we are here for is none other than the Ring of Blood. And very surprisingly, it only took about 5 minutes to find a group for, but it is a small string of elite quests that take place in this small rustic looking arena. Basically, the game spawns in a big elite mini boss, and as a group, we've got to take them down. We then turn the quest in, and then start the next one. And in total, I believe it was 6 quests to do, and each turn-in was like 20k XP. So 120k XP for 10 minutes of work? Yes please. But not only that, because the last quest chain offers a variety of very powerful weapons for each class, one of which is the Staff of Beasts. This is one of those weird druid weapons that offers stupidly large amounts of attack power for cats and bears, or a kitty stick as I've heard some people call it. 31 strength, 30 agility, 45 stamina, and 375 attack power. I mean, come on, I had to get that. Eventually, we did manage to get to the final mini-boss called Mogor, and this guy was absolutely slapping the tank. But we get him down regardless, and that's when he reses himself and once again starts attacking us. And he absolutely clattered the tank, and unsurprisingly, that did cause us to wipe. But of course, we resed up and gave it another go. And I'm still not sure what the problem was the first time, because on the second attempt, we surprisingly had no issues at all. So very excitedly, I went back over to the quest giver and claimed my shiny new weapon. Unfortunately though, the healer for whatever reason didn't get any quest completion. They reloaded and everything, but still nothing. So for a third time, we went back at Mogor, and again, no issues at all. And just like that, we had acquired our first ever piece of TBC loot. So with our first gear upgrade in hand, the plan currently was to speedrun level 66, because I wanted to get started on the dungeon attunement for Black Morass, which is a very, very important dungeon, and we'll talk about why later. And I decided that the best way for me to do that would be to run mana tombs. I have no idea why I did. There's zero reason for me to be running this dungeon again. There's no loot to get, plus I just don't really enjoy this dungeon that much. So I ended up doing a total of 3 full mana tombs runs. Nothing notable happened really, some nice and clean runs with the same group. And towards the end of the third one, we managed to hit level 66. As for the talent point, I put a second point into the talent intensity, a very simple talent that allows 30% of our mana to continue to regenerate whilst casting. Plus it gives 10 rage when we use the enrage ability. So with us now hitting level 66, it was time to start the attunement process. And surprisingly, we were actually heading over to Tanaris and into the Caverns of Time. And this was a place that I was actually familiar with, because this is where we get the Ankaraj rep ring and the Cthulhu eyeball cloak. So it was nice to see this place opened up. And flying down here for the first time was really cool. It was like we had gone to a different planet. The skybox was beautiful, of course, and there was these like massive planetary rings circling us. Getting down into the cave now, we first had to do what was like a little escort quest. We followed around this woman and she told us she is a custodian of time who deals with ordinary disturbances like rogue mages altering time to elevate their status or wealth. But since Nosdormu isn't here, we have to go in to defeat the infinite dragonfly and ensure Thrall's freedom. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Now, I'm not some kind of lore guru, In fact, I've never really been massively invested in the lore, but this time, I just couldn't wait to see what this was all about. Unfortunately though, at the time of recording this, it was quite late at night since I went snowboarding with my friends that day, but I still wanted to play, and I tried my absolute best to find a group for the dungeon, but unfortunately, we were going to have to leave this one for another day. So instead, I decided that it was time to get to work on the next reputation grind inside of the dungeon Sethekk Halls. This here was actually going to be the most important rep grind out of all of them, because later down the line, we will need to farm Lower City to Exalted Reputation in order to get the Shapeshifter's Signet, an incredibly powerful ring that could potentially last us until phase 3. Now, Sethekk Halls. Regular viewers of the channel will know that I have a thing against the harpies, so imagine my shock and horror when I saw these things. I mean, I didn't think bird people could get much worse than this, but nah. Whatever these things are, they take the top of the list for the worst mobs in the game. And to make it just that little bit worse, the aesthetic was bird people themed. There was big nests and stuff everywhere, but looking past that for now, even though it's giving me nightmares, there is also our first piece of dungeon loot in here, which is the Ravenclaw Band. 20 agility, 13 hit, and 30 attack power. Now it's not pre-bis, but it's actually not that far off. It's like 4th best. So before we leave this place, 100% we will be getting that ring. And of course, it comes from the last boss in the instance, Talon King Ikis. Now this monstrosity is actually somewhat tough. He was chunking away at our tank's health quite a bit, but he also had an LOS mechanic, which I imagine would one-shot you if you stood in it. But we get him down and, big surprise, the ring didn't drop. But we have officially completed our first ever run of Sethekk Halls, and unlucky for me, this dungeon was actually the optimal dungeon for Lower City rep, at least at this level anyway. So fast forward a couple of torturous bird people hours, we are of course still inside Sethekk Halls, and very randomly, I for whatever reason decided to start recording again, and good thing I did, because we get Ikis down again, and what do I see? One disgusting Ravenclaw band, and of course, I needed on it, and we won. Now unfortunately, this is where I realized that we actually needed to be level 68 to equip it. But regardless, I decided it was best to end the day on a high note. So I hearthed my way back to Shatrath and logged out. Day number 4 is here, and we still have a crap ton of stuff to be getting on with. And for the first couple of hours, of course, I spent it inside of Sethekk Halls. As much as I hated this place, we just had to get the rep done one way or another. But you know, looking past the bird people, I actually didn't mind this dungeon. It was much nicer to spam than Mana Tombs in my opinion, apart from the final room, which was always kinda ass due to fears and mobs charging and threat resetting. But fast forward an hour, of course I do eventually start to get quite bored, and that's when I remembered about the Durnholde dungeon. And again, I really struggled to find a group. There was a maximum of 1 group in the group finder looking for a tank, but that's when Mr. Holy Schlong came to my rescue. He's a member of the guild and also quite a chill guy. So thank you Mr. Schlong for your help. Getting to the dungeon now, I really didn't know what to expect. And well, this was possibly the strangest dungeon I've ever done, because we are literally just in Hillsbrad. But I did actually think this was quite a cool concept. All of this times traveling stuff opens up a world of opportunity for dungeons, even if the story had 0 significance. And ooh, I'm a human. Yeah, for whatever reason, everyone is transformed into a human, regardless of your race/class combination, which I suppose makes sense, because why would an elf be in the South Shore? So first off, we had to go down to these cabin things and clear out all of the mobs inside and then set them ablaze. And doing that clearly gets the attention of the first boss, Lieutenant Drake. And I thought he was pretty cool, because he is literally just a warrior, with hamstring, AoE fear, mortal strike, etc. His loot was just this pair of plate boots. And on the topic of loot, I think it's worth noting that again, there is 0 loot for us in here. Though that can't be said about the heroic version, because the heroic version offers us our phase 1 best in slot bracers. But that's a topic for another video. So we clear through the keep a little little bit and head down to the basement where we find Thrall himself. Now, me being the idiot that I am, I unfortunately didn't accept his quest. I was scared of it starting an escort quest or something and then everyone else missing out. So I was waiting for the group leader to start it for us, but the hunter ended up doing it, which meant that I missed out and we would now need to come back to do this a second time. So we start escorting Thrall, taking down a couple of packs of mobs as we went until we get to the front gate and are confronted with the second boss, Captain Scarlock. And again, I thought this guy was pretty cool, because he is literally just a paladin. As a whole, that's one of the things I really liked about this dungeon, because it's simplistic fantasy stuff, killing warriors and paladins, going into a keep to rescue an orc. As for Scarlock's loot, he dropped a pretty good looking plate chest piece. Thrall then mounts up and we start traversing through Hillsbrad until we get to this barn where we take cover to hide from these Taran Mill lookouts. But of course, they find us and we obliterate them. We then move to the Taran Mill church and kill a couple more guards. And that's when things started to get a little weird, because Epoch Hunter comes down and starts ranting about how Thrall must die. So as a whole, this dungeon was so friggin' cool. This was so different to any dungeon I had ever done. And this kind of time traveling thing, I think this is a fantastic way to allow players to visualize old lore, even if there is a bunch of weird dragon things trying to kill you. As for the dragon's mechanics, I actually didn't see anything apart from the hunter's pet taunting the boss constantly. For the loot, he dropped the mantle of Durnholde. Durnholde? What the fuck? My god, I wish I read this thing at the time, because these shoulders are actually pre-bis for feral tanks. But my stupid ass clicked greed. So I know that I said that we would need to do the dungeon again, but Mr. Schlong said that he actually needed to come back tomorrow anyway, and that I'm welcome to join him, so that's fine. I can just wait until then. That would at least give us the rest of the day to finish off the lower city rep grind inside of Sethekk Halls, except now I have decided to tank them, because it's getting really difficult to find groups as a cat, and I think it's mainly because of the first boss, Darkweaver Sith, because she spawns in a load of elemental ads, and if they're not CC'd or AoE down, things can go pretty badly. And as a cat, we don't have CC or AoE. To be honest, I don't know if that's true. I'm kind of just coping at this point because I know cat spec just sucks. But as a whole, this dungeon wasn't actually that bad to tank, despite how horrific the theme is. The pulling is pretty easy and you get some nice big packs. And well, that was it. Now that I know how to tank this dungeon, we were set for a good few hours of grinding. And along the spree, we managed to hit level 68. Only 2 levels left. As for the talent point, I decided to shove it into the last level of intensity. And coincidentally, this was also the last run we needed in order to get honoured with the lower city. So although some parts of this dungeon were okay, I really hope that I never lay eyes on these freaks ever again. So now that the lower city rep grind is done, I decided to tackle an errand, as I like to call it, that I'd been putting off for a while, and that is leveling up the first aid skill. Lucky for me though, I have been hoarding all of the enchanting mats and cloth since we started, so apart from having to buy the recipes, it was nice and cheap to level. But apart from that, I didn't really have much else to do, because I was waiting for Mr. Schlong to clear Durnholde with me. So I decided to head over and tackle another very important errand, and of course that's getting started on the Karazhan attunement, which is actually way over in Deadwind Pass. I mean, I was always curious about this place because I had passed through it, flown over it, but never went inside. At least now I know. Now the storyline here kind of goes back into the whole time traveling stuff, where it's suspected that a second version of Karazhan could exist, yet it's sharing the same space as the Karazhan in the present, or something like that anyway. So for the first quest that we had to do, we had to head down underneath Karazhan where loads of these spirits and undead mobs are roaming around. And according to the quest, the reason for the undead's existence is unknown, and that's why we have to collect their essence and bring them back to Archmage Alterus. But as I was just completing the quest, minding my own business, a shaman asked if I could help him kill this warrior. Didn't know why, but I said sure. And this dude must have been a prot warrior because the amount of health this guy had was insane. But we killed them regardless. And that kinda came back to bite me in the ass, because after the shaman had left, that same warrior had found a friend and decided to kill me. To be honest, can't even blame him. For the second quest we had to venture down into Karazhan's cellar. And to be honest, this took me ages to find the entrance. I even had to Google it. But I really like the vibe down here. All of the cobwebs and dusty old bottles really sets the vibe. What we actually had to do was take a reading of the well. However, I tried to clear the area a bit, and one mob turned into 2 mobs, which turned into 4 mobs, and I tried using my bear form, but even then I ended up dying. But I respawned and stealthed my way back out again and handed the quests in, which then sent us all the way over to Hillsbrad and over to Dalaran to an NPC called Cedric, who talks about Medivh's disappearance and the only person left who can open Karazhan is Khadgar. So I hearthed back to Shatrath and spoke to him, and he said that he split Karazhan's key into 3 fragments and placed them inside dungeons. And whilst all of this was very exciting, it was now like 1 AM, so instead of destroying my sleep schedule again, I decided that we would continue this storyline tomorrow. Day number 5 is here, and it's a little bit of a shorter one. Don't know why, I don't remember exactly what I was doing that day. But just as Mr. Schlong had promised, we were starting the day by going back over to the Durnholde dungeon. But this time, I'm actually going to complete the quest. The start of the run went a bit badly though. We were unsuccessful at spell cleaving all of the mobs at the cabins. We even wiped a second time. But looking back on it now, I don't really know why I wasn't using Hurricane here. That would have been infinitely better than clawing at them. But we rezzed up again and finished them off at a much slower pace this time. But we get down to Thrall, and this time I really didn't care if anyone missed out. I was not going to miss the quest again. So we clear out the few packs of mobs until we get to the second boss, Captain Scarlock. Nothing interesting happened, but since I know some of you guys like to look at the loot, and I do too to be fair, he dropped this one-handed healing mace. And again, we clear out the next few packs of mobs until we get to the last boss fight, Epoch Hunter. And again, the loot was those really nice feral tanking shoulders, but my stupid ass still didn't realize that these were pre-bits. But regardless, we did manage to get what we needed done. And no, I didn't realize that the elf can actually teleport you out of the instance. And that was it. We are now attuned for the dungeon, the Black Morass. I also managed to get this quest done, which awarded us with an epic hat. So of course, I wasted 0 time and jumped straight into our first Black Morass run. And this time, we're in the Swamp of Sorrows as Medivh is trying to open the Dark Portal, which again, I think is so cool that we get to visualize parts of the past. Now going into this dungeon, the way others were making it sound is that this was a big, scary, hard to clear dungeon. And yeah, okay, the mobs were hitting quite hard, but the dungeon design, I can't lie, really wasn't it. The way this dungeon worked was that it took place in one small area around Medivh, and 18 portals were going to open and infinite dragons were going to try and stop Medivh. Now I get the idea behind it. The infinite dragonflight want to stop the opening of the dark portal to prevent death and destruction. But apparently, if I've gotten this right, Medivh opening the dark portal actually saves Azeroth later down the line from bigger and badder things. And that's why we have to make sure the dark portal gets opened. Unfortunately, that has left us with a very uninteractive dungeon, running back and forth, going from portal to portal, slaying identical mobs. And to top that off, the XP from here was really bad. It was like half of an XP bar per run. However, inside of this very dungeon, there is actually our most important piece of pre-base dungeon loot, and that is the Hourglass of the Unraveler. This trinket is so unbelievably powerful. 32 crit is already pretty solid, but it also increases our attack power by 300 every 50 seconds. Our phase 1 Bis trinkets is of course the Bloodlust Brooch plus the Dragonspine trophy. However, we are definitely never getting DST, which means our phase 1 best in slot is Brooch plus the Hourglass. So despite the fact that this dungeon is incredibly boring, I made myself a little plan. There was 2 conditions that would stop me from spamming this dungeon. The first, obviously, if we get the trinket, and second, if we reach level 69. And given the fact that the XP gains from here are so bad, we would get at least like 20 runs before that actually happened, which surely is enough time, right? So we clear up the first first 12 portals without any issues until the 12th portal opens and the second boss appears, who is called Temporus, or Temporus, whatever. And he is the boss that can drop the trinket. And hey, maybe we get lucky. One run and done, right? No, don't be silly. He only dropped the Epoch Mender. And another thing that kinda sucks about this dungeon is that the game gives you like 5 minutes to clear each boss before spawning the next portal. And obviously, we only need like 1 minute to kill him. And the result of that is that we have to sit doing literally nothing. But we clear up the next 5 portals until the 18th portal opens and the last boss Aeonis spawns. Now this guy I thought looked insanely cool. I think it's probably just because he is so terrifyingly huge. Now in the normal versions of the dungeons, this guy is easily the scariest boss so far. He hits incredibly hard. Plus he likes to stun the entire party sometimes. But regardless, we were able to take him down, and he dropped 2 pieces of loot, the Cowl of the Cutlass and the Bloodfire Greatstaff. Now this group were actually going back in for another run, so of course I decided to join them. This run really wasn't anything different from the first, I kinda just shut my brain off. But we get to Temporus and take him down, and big surprise, no trinket, which is fine because I was expecting this to take a while anyway, since according to Wowhead, the drop chance is only about 11%. So we get to Aeonis and also take him down no issues, and unfortunately after this run, this group then disbanded. But that wasn't going to stop me, of course. And at this point, getting into a group as a cat was really starting to get quite difficult. So I was toying with the idea that I could maybe tank this dungeon at level 68. I mean, how bad could it be, right? So run number 3, of course, no trinket to be seen. But run number 4, I actually decided to tank it, because although tanking this at level 68 was a pretty bold decision, pretty much all of the fights were single target, which is where Bear excels, right? But just like every other run, no trinket. Tanking Aeonis also went surprisingly well, despite a couple of close calls, and well, that was it. For the rest of our spamming spree, I decided to tank, just to speed things up a bit. But run number 5, of course, no trinket in sight. Although apparently this offhand is pretty good. And unfortunately, this is where day number 5 ends. Because like I said earlier, I did sadly have things to do that day. Starting off day number 6, it really shouldn't be a surprise, but yes, I went straight back into the Black Morass. And this is where I plan to stay for most of day 6. And that's exactly what I did. I mean, I did so many runs, I actually lost count of how many runs I did. But I think it was on run number 6 of the day when it finally happened. It dropped. The feeling that gave me was undescribable. It was very similar to that time that I got SGC on my very first character. I stood staring at my screen, waiting to see the roll results. But like everything else in this game, I unfortunately lost the roll. So after spending 5 hours running the same instance and then losing the roll, obviously I was feeling pretty annoyed. So I decided to take a little break and visit my class trainer. And that's when I spotted something very strange. Flight form. I thought we couldn't get flying until level 70, but after googling it, apparently druids get it at level 68. And of course, I wanted to try it out, and I thought that we would also need to train flying mounts, so I ran all the way down to Shadowmoon Valley and visited the flying trainer, only to discover that I didn't even need it. So for the first time, I entered my flying form and started flying around, or at least attempting to fly around. I mean, this was so underwhelming. You see all of these Giga Chads zipping about on their epic flying mounts, and I mean, I didn't expect that, but I never expected this. I think the best way to describe it is, have you ever tried to run in a dream? That's exactly what it feels like. But with that excitement now done, it was time to get back to work. And the first run back in Black Morass, another hourglass dropped. I mean, twice in a row. This one was destined for me. Surely. Yeah. I was very emotionless. And at this point, we had run the dungeon so many times that we were now revered with the Caverns of Time, which meant I could now purchase our first ever heroic key. And to be honest, it kind of felt like it was an item that I wasn't supposed to have yet. But we were now getting so close to level 69, and the number of runs we had left was getting smaller. So I hopped back into the dungeon for our final few runs. The first, of course, it didn't even drop. The second, needless to say. But on the third run, we managed to hit level 69, which means if I'm sticking to my rule, this was the final run, our final chance at getting that trinket. Well, I guess that was that. I unfortunately was unable to get us that trinket, and I was sticking to that rule. We were now level 69, so time to move on and get something else done. So being unsuccessful with the trinket, of course, the next thing on my mind was the Karazhan attunement. So I decided to get that first key fragment from inside the dungeon, Shadow Labyrinth. So going into this one, I really didn't have that many expectations. I think I've made it pretty clear at this point that I'm not a massive fan of the Auchindoun dungeons. But you know what? This one was not bad at all. It still had the same aesthetic as the other Auchindoun dungeons, but this one was more focused on cultists and demons and stuff, which personally, I much prefer. As for the loot inside here, we had sadly gone back to there being 0 pieces of loot for us. On to the first boss now. He is a massive, scary demon called Ambassador Helmaw. His mechanic was a massive pain in the ass, because it was a 6-second AoE fear. We definitely should have brought a shaman instead of a cat. As for his loot, he dropped these cloth gloves. Moving into the second big room of the dungeon here, I really liked this part. It really brought the whole cultist vibe up, with all the rows of cultists doing whatever it is they do. So moving on to the second boss of the dungeon is Blackheart the Inciter. Now this was probably the most frustrating dungeon boss I have ever seen. All of his mechanics just suck. A little bit into the fight, he mind controls every single player and makes us attack each other, which also resets threat after it fades. He also flings people away sometimes, and then resets threat again. Oh, and then he mind controls everyone again. But eventually, we get him down, and his loot was another pair of caster gloves, this time for resto druids. So we clear through the next couple of rooms until we get to the third boss, Grandmaster Vorpil. He was kinda cool, I suppose. Definitely some kind of warlock anyway, and his mechanic involved these void walkers that kept closing in on the boss. And I assume if they reach Vorpil, something bad would happen. As for his loot, a very nice looking gun dropped. Not too long after killing Vorpil, we were standing in front of the last boss of the dungeon, Murmur. Now this guy was really cool. It shouldn't be much of a secret at this point, but I think massive enemies are cool. And well, that's exactly what this guy is. His mechanics were also pretty dangerous. He cast this sonic boom ability, which you were supposed to run away from. I didn't realize that until it was too late though. And that was it. We had defeated Murmur and completed our first ever run of the Shadow Labyrinth. But before we left, we still had to get the first key fragment for the attunement quest. We basically just had to click on this phylactery thing at the back of the room, which spawned a very weak elemental. Kill him, and done. First key fragment acquired. So of course I returned to Khadgar and Shatrath and handed the quest in, and he now wanted us to go and get 2 more key fragments from other dungeons. So I wasted 0 time and headed straight towards our next one, which is located inside of the dungeon, the Steam Vaults. Now ordinarily, this would just be something you did with your group as you're clearing the dungeon. However, I decided that it would be a fantastic idea to do it solo. So using stealth, I weaved my way around the hordes of Naga, until we get to the very back of the first room, where we dive down and could spawn the add-in. And using the same strategy for the elites in Zangarmarsh, Bear Form, Rejuvenation, etc. But me being the idiot that I am, I drowned to death. So I rezzed up, dragged the mob to the surface, and big surprise, when you don't drown yourself, it becomes much easier. And I was actually able to take it down this time. Now, if it were up to me, I would probably just go straight over to the Architraves to get the final key fragment. However, it's apparently recommended to wait until level 70 before doing those dungeons. So that kind of freed up a bit of space, and since we are now getting pretty close to level 70, I decided that we would get to work on our second heroic attunement, which I decided was going to be the Cenarion Expedition. And to go from honoured to revered with them, we would need to hit up the Steam Vaults. So I guess I could have just asked the group to do the key quest with me. Now going into this one, I honestly wasn't expecting too much from it. I was just expecting more Naga stuff, but it was actually quite fun. Huge packs of mobs and things seemed to actually be hitting. And in this group, turns out someone actually did need to do the key fragment quest, so doing it solo was just a complete waste of time. The first boss is Hydromancer Thespia. She was pretty interesting to fight. She comes out with 2 big water elementals that we had to focus down first. Then she casts Hurricane and Cone of Cold. Now, it's not difficult, but again, it's nice to have at least something to look out for. For her loot, she dropped this caster ring. We then clear our way through the next packs of mobs, nothing massively out of the ordinary, until we get to the second boss, Mechgineer Steamrigger. He is a massive towering piece of machinery. Seems a little out of place, if you ask me. Again, he was quite a fun fight though. He spawns in loads of little ads that are constantly attacking us. As for his loot, he dropped his neck piece, which I imagine is probably quite good for prop paladins. Now, in order to actually get to the final boss of the instance, we apparently had to press a button or whatever to unlock the door. To be honest, I still don't know how that works. So we were clearing up the trash leading to the final boss, and already these packs are quite large, but unfortunately we ended up pulling both packs and wiped right at the end of the dungeon. But no worries, we rezzed up, cleaned the mobs up, and started the final boss, Warlord Calithresh. He wasn't massively special, he's just another Naga, but my threat on this boss was stupidly high for some reason. So for a good portion of the fight, I ended up tanking him. For his mechanics, these Naga distillers I think cause him to enrage. So ordinarily, we would be focusing them, but we ended up killing him so quickly that there was just no point. And that was it. We had cleared our first run of the Steam Vaults. And of course, for the entire rest of day 6, I lived inside of here. As a whole, I think Steam Vaults is okay. It's not my favourite, but I don't hate it. Now, I actually didn't record the rest of day 6 because my hard drive at this point was so full of footage from the past week that I really needed to start saving space. But by the end of it, we were about 1/4 of the way to Revered with the Cenarion Expedition. Day number 7 is here, and this was it. This was the day that I planned to hit level 70 for the first time in TBC Classic. And yes, of course, the first couple of hours were finishing off the Cenarion Expedition rep grind. And no, I didn't record most of it because I don't really need hundreds of gigabytes worth of Steam Vault footage. It was really only like 4 runs though, and you know, not that much of anything happened. But in the end, I was able to get us to Revered, and I wasted 0 time and rushed over to the Cenarion Refuge and grabbed us the Reservoir Key. And just like that, we are now attuned for the Zangramarsh Heroic Dungeons. Now at this point, we were getting really close to level 70, and I wanted to do it in some way that felt special, but the best way I could come up with was running the Shadow Labyrinth. To be honest, I don't know why. I think I was probably just trying to get started on the Auchindoun Heroics attunement. But even then, still didn't give us enough XP to hit 70. But that's when I got a message from the person that we started the entire grind with, Mr. Zero Impact. And he asked if I wanted to come and tank Black Morass. And of course, how could I deny such an amazing opportunity? I mean, if we managed to get the trinket and hit level 70 in this same run, that would be a great way to finish things off. And it was a perfectly standard run, only this time we had very good heals. But we clear up the first boss, then wait 3 years until finally the second boss spawns. But of course, it just wasn't meant to be. But luckily, this run didn't actually get us to level 70, so one more chance for that insane run. So we kill the first boss, wait 3 years, and then start to take down Temperus. And again, no trinket. But it's okay, because this run still didn't get us to level 70. See, I told you the XP sucks in this place. So, one last chance. My XP bar was literally on the edge of max level. So we get to Temperus, my heart racing, just hoping to see it drop. Well, I guess that's that. We had missed the chance for our crazy level 70 run. So we were just simply clearing up the rest of the dungeon, and that's when it happened. I managed to hit level 70 for the first time ever in TBC Classic. So although I wasn't able to get us the trinket, I was still insanely happy. But turns out, this group wanted one extra run. So I thought, screw it, might as well enjoy the level 70 tanking. And I went into the run expecting nothing at this point, but we get Temperus down, and what do I see? 1 hourglass of the Unraveler, and turns out I was the only person in the group that needed it. So sure, I didn't get it in this same run, but this is close enough, right? So hitting level 70 and getting our best trinket, I honestly couldn't think of a better way to end the final day of the TBC grind. I hope you all enjoyed today's video because I enjoyed making it. Finally, we hit level 70. TBC has been awesome so far. I absolutely loved Vanilla WoW, but this is just that plus more. I honestly can't stop playing it. I just love it way too much. As for content, of course, we will be doing a raiding for the first time in TBC video next. And I know I said that I would smash the two leveling videos together to make one long movie style video because you guys seem to like it when I do that. But I think what I'm going to do is wait until the raiding video is finished. So we have a movie of level 60 all the way up to the first raid. But apart from that, of course, we will be leveling up the hunter, but properly this time, doing all the quests and chasing all the loot, etc. But before I do that, I think I want to finish off the shaman series, get him to level 60 and ready for TBC horde leveling. But anyway, I think that is enough yapping for today. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all later.